presentation on the screen is a timeline of Falconry in Wiltshire, and the 4 cabinets around the room have separate displays relating to early falconry in Wiltshire, the Old Hawking Club, who hawked on Salisbury Plain, and two of the best-known 20th century Wiltshire falconers, Jack Mavrocordato and Roger Upton. It is with great sadness that my father, Roger Upton, honorary patron of the British Archives of Falconry, and the falconer who initiated international interest in falconry history and archives, did not survive long enough to see this completed building. He was hugely supportive of what we were doing, and luckily he did live long enough to know that this was underway and was extremely excited about it. Lastly, I must thank Mr. and Mrs. Allman for the use of the building, the team from the archives who have put in many, many hours of work to get this building and exhibition ready for tonight. I couldn't wish for a better group of individuals than the directors and advisors we have in the British Archives of Falconry. I would also like to thank falconers Martin Perryman and Aaron Wright, who helped with the building work, and Rochelle, Pamela, Polly and Lynn, who are busy in the kitchen, who have helped with catering and cleaning. And importantly, I would like to thank all the falconry clubs and individual falconers for their support. Though in an archive we are celebrating the past, an archive moves forward with future generations, and it is important that we encompass the youth of today, who are the falconers and archivists of tomorrow. Thank you very much.
When Mark asked me to say something this evening, he asked for a few brief words, perhaps being unaware that the only thing I've ever done briefly in my life has been stay married. But, in any event, unfortunately the 25-page typescript that I had for the presentation was lost en route over the Atlantic, so I tried to scratch a couple of things together here, but I wanted to tell you all particularly how delighted I am to be here. It's been a long pull, I know, and we've had a lot of fun with it. I also want to say that I'm honored to be asked to speak, and mostly I'm excited about what is going on here and the beautiful progress that this team is making. I'm only disappointed in one thing, and that's that our friend Colonel Thornton and company didn't do this 200 years ago, and save us a lot of trouble. I look on the archival efforts, both here and in my own country, as being something like a dog. You can practice falconry without a dog in some aspects and get away with it, but the addition of a dog to the falconry team allows the falconer an infinite possibility of further enjoying his sport. I think the archives and our history is the same thing. If the falconer knows more about the art, the literature, the historical heritage of the sport, that just adds to the enjoyment that he can derive from the sport itself. We've created an effort to save especially valuable things, and I think this effort is particularly well timed. We live in a generation of which I am somewhat critical of, an internet generation, a digital generation, and there are people in that who seem to think that everything they need to know about falconry they can get on the internet. Frankly, we've lost, even before the internet, we've lost the art of letter writing. We've lost the art, falconers' diaries now have turned into a chart with tick marks on it at the very best. So to save those old letters and the old diaries are just that much more meaningful. But it takes an effort. It takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of money. And the BFA effort here is particularly valuable, but they all need help. And there's a lot of work to be done. And you've got and infinitely more work than we have. I mean, when I did the American Archives, Archives of American Falconry, we had about 100 years of, in fact, historical activity. You've got 15 centuries. You've got a long way to go to catch up, believe me. But at any rate, you are doing it, and you're doing it now, and to a degree, maybe you're doing it despite the internet generation. Hopefully, they will mature and come to appreciate what you've done as they grow older. Despite no Colonel Thornton starting it, Britain had its own equivalent of Mr. Archives, Mr. Falconry History, in the name of Roger Upton. Roger was an inspiration to the whole world of falconry. I know he played a great deal of a role in my founding the archives in America, and we've all lost a tremendous inspiration with Roger. As my Persian friends would say, when they miss someone, his place is empty. Finally, I would just congratulate Mark and your team. You've got a really impressive site. The site, even then though, is not as important as the stuff you've got in it. But I would ask you to, you all to understand that success, and they're successful, they're rolling now, will only breed success. So I hope you don't get complacent and take too great a pride in this facility, because you're going to have to build a new one soon.
I realize that.
And with that, remember, it is a falconer's archives, conceived of by and for falconers, run by falconers, and I urge you all to support it and use it. Thank you.
Well, Mark, thank you very much indeed for giving me the honour of inviting me here tonight. And I'm particularly proud, as the local Member of Parliament, to have not just a national collection, but I think a collection of international importance too. And the fact that we have friends from the United States, from Germany, from Abu Dhabi and elsewhere, I think really emphasises the bond of unity that the craft of falconry creates across the world. It is an ancient craft. We are talking about, as you said, 15 centuries, and that is what we call a deep history. And as I listen behind me to, I can hear Vaughan Williams gently playing, I think it really helps emphasise the feeling of continuity, if you like, and that connection with the past that I'm feeling here this evening. I can't pretend to be an expert in what I'm looking at, but what I can sense is a real sense of pride in the history and tradition of falconry and its importance in our national life. You know, this little corner of the country is actually becoming very important when it comes to historical collections. Only a few miles away, the Science Museum have their national collection, which is an extraordinary cornucopia of the technological history, not just of this country, but of the world. You can see aircraft from Howard Hughes's day right through to rockets and all sorts of other wonderful creations right here on our doorstep. And then just down the road, the museum commemorating the life of the great Victorian naturalist Richard Jefferies, who would have understood falconry and seen it and known about it. And that collection is literally down the road, now being run by volunteers and going from strength to strength. When people talk about Swindon and Wiltshire, they must remember that hidden behind the obvious sites are little gems like this. And that's why I'm particularly proud to join you tonight to celebrate the opening of the British Archive of Falconry and to wish you every success and my continued support as you develop and expand and thrive. My good wishes to you all and my grateful thanks.
John needs no introduction to most of you in the falconry world. One of our oldest members of the club now.
Yes, I think so. I beat Kent like usual.
Right. Yeah.
This may be a bit different. I have a friend who is a detectivist, Do you know what a detectorist is? If you saw the telly last Wednesday night at 10 o'clock, you'd have seen the programme about the detectorists. And my pal who's a detectorist, he's been at this job a long time. The best thing he's got is a little piece of metal with a snake embossed on it, which was used as a stamp, ornamental stamp. Well, the point about it is that it's over 1,000 years old. And the last person to touch it was a Norseman, a Viking. And you have that in your hand, and if that doesn't make your hair stand on the back of your neck, what will? Now, there is obviously a connection which you've picked up. What's round here does the same thing. Makes the hair stand up on the back of your head and neck when you think of all the history behind it, and length, and the reality. That's it, the reality. Where's that chap with the button from Het Blue, which I've been shown tonight? Yeah, but still, where should we go from there? What we've got here links us with historic falconry and historic falconers. And historic falconry, that button is one of them. And I remember a good long time ago being shown by Guy Omer a metal tag, which was one of the rings that the professional falconers at the Het Loo put on captured herons before they released them. And it had never been used, and there it was in my hand again. Do you know where it is? I just wondered if it turned up somewhere.
Might be to find out.
It might have made its way toward us. It might have made its way toward us.
Really?
And was destroyed in the fire before it arrived.
Really?
Yes, tragically.
Yeah, hugging marbles.
Yeah.
I was thinking about marbles too. Yeah. But in that programme the other night, the detectorist picked up a little scrap of metal, and the expert looked at it and said, "It's a falconer's whistle. Have you ever heard of a falconer's whistle before?" And they scratched the earth out of it, and matey blew it. And I thought, here it comes, out of the falcon. They hadn't got the imagination to do it. But it had an entirely different effect. If you want to know, you want to watch the programme. It's very good. It's a wonderful, slow comedy. Still, never mind. If you were talking about historic falconry and historic falconers, have you any favourite historic falconers? I mean, David Horrobin has one, hasn't he? Simon, yes. Any volunteers for historic falconers?
Anybody came before me, I guess.
Yeah.
Kim Muir, Bobby Spence,
Diana, Fisher. That's the trouble, there's so many to choose from.
Yes, exactly. And of course the recent ones. That very soon, I mean, Maverick Darter and co were already now historic falconers. And I'm talking about relics of the past, and this place, after all, isn't a museum, it's an archive. And an archive is a place where public or corporate records are stored. We are neither public nor corporate. And our records are not records as such, deliberately set out as records, they're just the casual records of all the falconry that's gone on. Since when? How? What's the oldest thing you've got here? Any idea?
The oldest thing, John, is a wax seal, 15th century wax seal.
Really?
I knew Tony would have the answer.
Good. I wonder if there's anything that falconers, past and present, have in common. Looking round this motley crowd, I don't know what it would be. But I suggest that what we all have in common is an inherited passion for hunting. for going out and killing things. And we inherited from our fathers, our forefathers, and the cavemen. And that's what we've all got, this go out and catch them job. And we've all got that. I don't want to indulge in sexism. That's a stupid word, isn't it? But on the whole, women don't inherit that particular urge as often as men. I hope I'm not hurting any feelings. You grant me now, will you? No? Oh. Yes. Mind you, I suppose, if you want to know what make falconers is what they are, we could have a psychologist come and psychoanalyse us all. No, thank you. And then if we look at falconers in general, I see them as ranging from the up and atom boys, the rough and ready boys, who are going out to catch things. And some of them, it may be said, are lawless. And there's a lawless feeling in some of them. And at the other end, of course, of that particular scale, there's the scholarly, the introspective, the theoretic. Anthony Jack was a theoretic falconer, but that's beside the point. And there aren't many. I saw Bill Rutledge looking at me a minute ago, bless him. He's not even a memory to some people. Oh, dear. Yes. Well, that'll do for that. But what is important to all of us is being in the field today, if we possibly can be. That's the present. Falconry, practising it in the field, and as I've said somewhere else before, it's when flying hawks that falconers become themselves. Looking forward, we can think of falconers looking forward. They always making plans, buying food, new furniture, looking for the next tracking device to come after GPS. Oh yes. But looking forwards, looking in the present, looking backwards comes last, I'm afraid. In numbers at least, there are fewer of us that look backwards than look forward. And here we are, looking backwards. How can I say that in this occasion that, that we're not as numerous as the Up and Atom boys, but the numbers of historically minded are small perhaps, but their dedication is great. It's more than an interest, it's a passion. It's a passion that over the years has sustained and driven some falconers in their work to create our British archive. Most of us are here to salute them. I salute them.
And lastly, Elizabeth.
Greetings, fellow falconers, the archive team, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to be invited to the opening of the British Archive for falconry. As a falconer and as a vice president from Deutscher Falkenorden, I'm honored to celebrate this special day of the British falconry history with you. It is overwhelming what you have achieved here, and this feat should inspire many of us to develop similar projects in our own country. Creating places to preserve our passion for falconry, the history of our organizations, and our love for birds of prey is only possible with a deep commitment and unwavering resolve. An archive of falconry brings together many components of our sport and lifestyle. In details the kindred spirit that passed before us. It chronicles long forgotten stories. It is here that unique items are curated, and this is where new and extraordinary things are created. It is hard to imagine how much work, diligence and difficulties integrate into such a task. We know most falconry groups are small organizations staffed by volunteers. Preserving falconry as a hunting tradition in the 21st century remains an ongoing battle as attacks against our sport come daily. Preserving the quarry species, upon which falconry hinges, is imperative. Likewise, opposing the overregulation of birds of prey, the non-scientific management of wild raptor populations, and the bureaucratic constraints imposed on the husbandry of captive raptors are just a few of the challenges we face. As much more, it deserves our appreciation what the archive team has established. An American author, speaker, coach and pastor, John Calvin Maxwell once said, "Teamwork makes a dream work, but a vision becomes a nightmare when the leader has a big dream and a bad team." Thus it takes the contributions, ideas and inspirations of individuals to start a project before others are inspired to pitch in and can help carry the load. Unfortunately, not all of the falconers who admire this effort can celebrate with us today. However, they are here in spirit, thanking you for preserving British falconry history for future generations and cheering you on. They stand in awe of the strange and endurance expended to develop this treasure of falconry history. For the team that has created the British Archive of Falconry, I offer my heartfelt congratulations on the opening of this facility. In the name of the Deutsche Falkenorden, I present you with 2 volumes of our reprint yearbooks from 1936 to 1946, with the dedication of our president, Mr. Hewig.